Hey, good afternoon, good evening, good morning, everybody. It's John Wayne Mullins with Mr. New Dad. I'm trying something a little bit different today with my talk, my series on Mr. New Dad. I'm bringing in a guest speaker, and this person is a longtime friend of mine. His name's Scott Friend, and he is your friend. Scott is he's a leader in the construction industry. He's a project manager. He's a chaplain. He's a U.S. Army officer and a U.S. Navy veteran too. So I'm very excited to hear him. He's a dad of three young girls, and I'm really looking forward to hearing what he has to say about being a dad in today's culture and how to become that dad that we all want to aspire to be, but then also hearing some different tips, some different life lessons that he has learned in his journey of being a dad. So without further ado, we will bring Scott in, and here he is. Hey, Scott.
Hey John, how's it going?
Good. How are you doing?
Good, brother. Good to
Hey,
see
so
you.
before we get started today, I think that it's just, a great icebreaker, and might be something I start doing more often is, what's a good dad joke, Scott?
Well, seeing as I'm a dad joke pro, what drink would you say can be bitter and sweet?
I don't know what.
Well, this is very fitting. I would say reality. So, cheers.
I don't have my cup, but that was funny.
I got my favorite tea here, so good. I got chai with me.
Oh, that's great. That's great. Oh, that's good. Yeah, I think I'm gonna start doing that more often as a little bit of an icebreaker.
Oh
So
yeah.
yeah, that was good. So today, I asked you to be on this show a few weeks ago, and I'm really excited for you to be here. One, because you're where I will be in 7 years, but then also it's kind of been cool to kind of watch how you and Casey have like gone down this journey of parenthood. And what I'd like to really hear is what has been your journey of becoming a dad, being a dad, been like, and then some things that you would tell to that new dad out there.
Yeah, man, you've seen our whole journey. So, John, you and I have known each other for over 10 years now, which is
Yeah.
crazy. So, yeah, becoming a dad, I mean, Casey and I knew we wanted to have kids, and we got pregnant pretty early. About 6 months into our marriage, we were living in Germany at the time. We had an opportunity to move overseas, which was great. And we had our first baby girl in Albuquerque, New Mexico, um, just a little over 7 years ago now, which is crazy. And shortly followed by our 4-year-old and 2-year-old. After that, and we've lived in Texas most of this time, which is a great place for kids. We've had an awesome experience down here, very kid friendly. We live just north of Dallas now, which is awesome. I mean, it's a great family place. But just like everybody, we've had our ups and downs. I think that's just parenthood. Kids
Right.
are tough, especially when they're a copy of your worst quality sometimes. So one thing you and I talked about that I think is important for newer dads to know is patience is huge. That's very important for your marriage, but that's more so, it's really important for your kids. And I think grace is a key word that we need to think about constantly. We've been shown grace by faith in Christ, and I think we need to convey that to our children as well and show them that grace. Um, and you also need to show yourself some grace too. You and I talked, you're doing this series. I'm so proud of you for doing this. And a lot of guys that might be watching, they need to show themselves some grace as well as new dads, because there's guys out there that are going to be doing it 10 times better in your mind, but they're just doing what they're able to do. There's no reason to compare yourself. Show yourself some grace as well in your parenting skills, because you're not going to get it 100% right.
Oh
Um,
yeah.
Cool thing is, we learn something from our parents. We learn what to do, what not to do. I'm not going to do that way. And I'm sure our kids are going to do the same thing. So I think the reason that that's so important is because in their little world, whatever they're dealing with and they're freaking out about is the most important thing to them at that time. And you need to show them that grace. And our brains don't work the same way. Our prefrontal cortex stops growing about 25 years old. And so we have to think, look, they're in a different mind state than we are. We physically don't think the same anymore. So that's very difficult for us. And we get aggravated and we get upset. And, why don't you get this? Why don't you understand? Well, because, man, they're 7, 6 years old, whatever they might be. Man, I'm preaching to myself here. I mean,
oh yeah, and that's one of the biggest things that I've seen where it's easy to focus so much of your attention on your kids, but then you forget about leading yourself so much. A guy told me this today. I wish in my early years of being a dad that I would have focused a little bit more attention on myself and not allowed my focus to be so on my family, so on myself, so on my kids, because that's not leadership. That's not leading them. That's just kind of being a doormat.
Yeah. Well, and the same thing goes with, like, if you're involved in ministry, there's a lot of good things, but you can get burnt out really quick. Sure. I think the same thing rings true with your kids. I mean, you can pour and pour and pour, but you got to get filled too, right? I mean, you got to fill yourself up. So what we think this all comes down to is unmet expectations. That's with the kids. So, for example, Harper might freak out about something and I don't get it. And lo and behold, there was something earlier that maybe we said or somebody else said that just set her off. And she held on to that. There was this unmet expectation that she had. Or maybe we mentioned, we were going to go to the park earlier and things got so busy we weren't able to go to the park. And that ruined her day because she had that expectation that Dad said this is what we're going to do. But things happen, and it might be logical to me of, maybe we just don't have time to do that today. But in her world, it comes crumbling down. And so that's a lesson in marriage. That's a lesson in parenthood. And one thing that I've been realizing lately, I hear people say a lot, well, kids are resilient. Kids are really resilient, like they'll bounce back, they'll get over it.
Right.
I think that's true, but man, kids remember, and kids, especially my oldest, she's got the mind just a steel trap. She brings up stuff of, things she saw in movies or things that I said that I'm like, I don't remember saying that. But Casey's like, yeah, you did say that. So that can be a good or bad thing, right? So we have to be really careful. Not that we're going to speak ill of anybody or speak ill to them, but the way we guide them, I think we need to remember that, because there's so many stories and people that I've counseled of, grown adults of good and bad. I remember the way my dad treated me when I was 4, 5, 6 years old. Horrific stories, and some good. Oh man, I remember when my dad, like me personally, I remember when my dad would take me fishing when I was younger, and that meant a lot to me. I can remember us lighting fireworks in the backyard when I was younger. So like there are these impactful moments that happen in your life that I think are really important. But there can also be moments that are great detriment as well. And they're going to hold on to that stuff. They're going to remember. And I don't want guys beating themselves up, because you're going to screw up. It's going to happen. But again, show yourself some grace. You've been forgiven. So you need to forgive yourself and show yourself some grace. Try better, but show yourself some grace. So, I mean, the kids need you there, man. They need you full of grace. And it goes with our wives as well. It's us showing our wives some grace in those situations, because, I know Christina's in a different situation, but Casey stays home with the kids, and man, she gets overloaded and she gets frustrated. And so one practice that we've tried to make recently is I come home and I take the kids for 30 minutes at least. So, hey, what do you need? You need some you time. It kind of goes back to the filling your own cup.
Oh, yeah.
I'm going to take the kids. If you need to go, on a walk, if you need to go to the gym, whatever you got to do, just chill out. You want to read a book. And I think this kind of leads into my next point of being present with your kids. That's really big. There's studies that talk about your attitude while you're present with your kids as well. Man, a lot of us work really long hours. I know there's been days where I'm working 14, sometimes 16-hour days. Maybe we're trying to rush to get a project done. But when I come home, I've got to take the first 5, max maybe 10 minutes sitting outside my truck to say, hold on, I need to recenter myself, and I'm very stressed out. I need to show them some grace, even if they're crying, screaming, whatever, when I come in the house. But there are studies that show that the way that you enter that home and treat your children makes all the difference. So you might only get an hour with them that night, but being fully present with them, setting this aside, putting it down, focusing fully on them is going to make all the difference. Because right now I'm in school, and it breaks my heart when I'm sitting here on the computer trying to knock out a seminary paper. And this one time that I always tell people that sticks out to me, our middle daughter, Hannah, she came in, she's got that cute little speech impediment at her age still. And she's like, Daddy, I want to play Legos right now. I said, man, I would love to play Legos with you right now. I'd love to, but I'm so swamped. And it's, we agreed to do this as a couple, that I'm in a season of my life that I'm busy, but the hard part, and this is me needing to show myself some grace, is I'm not very present. And so when I'm done with that paper and I shut the computer and I go out there with them, I'm there. I'm not buried in my phone. I'm not on LinkedIn. I got rid of Facebook, so I don't have that anymore. But
good for you.
It was hard. But be fully present with your kids. So show yourself some grace.
Yeah, I love that. I'm going to interject for a second. That is such a great, almost like a mindfulness practice, but it's such a great thing for you to be aware of. If you're trying to be this present and engaged dad, but you're on your phone, I mean, where's your priority? And then the tip about, and I like that. It's something I'm encouraged by, but before you walk in your house, I think that's so important, especially if you've had a rough day, you've had a stressed out day, you bring everything into your home. And so are you aware of that? And it's something that I think until you go through it and experience it, you may not realize that you're bringing your stress into your home, into your children, into your wife, into your family. And I like that exercise of just taking those 2 to 3 minutes in your car, recentering yourself and saying, hey, I'm dad now. Because that's one of the things that I have learned in all my research is that how do you be dad? How do you be dad? How do you be successful, present, engaged? But then also kind of like the other end of the teeter tot is how do you be a successful work employee, business owner, and the challenges that both of those bring. So I really like that that exercise. Now, do you ever find yourself like, have you ever seen where you may have forgotten to do that and be like, you know what? It's because I didn't do that. I didn't practice it.
Yeah, it was either yesterday or last week. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, you get so busy, and you have this to-do list,
right?
That you just got to check the boxes. Don't let the kids become another one of those boxes you check. I mean, you're going to have your to-do list with work, school, the house, the honeydew. Don't let the kids be part of that. Don't let the kids be another check in the box, but include them in all that stuff. They're part of that. So one practice I've tried to do lately is when I'm sitting here and I'm swamped and I'm stressed out, like last week was finals week. And man, I was pulling my hair out. Now I can say it. I was planning a surprise party for my wife. So this is, post party, I can talk about it, but that was part of it too. And I just kept reminding myself and asking God to give me the grace when these kids come in here, because thankfully they're back in the corner of the house right now watching a show because we're doing this. But normally it's chaos. It's just they're running around, they're being kids, and it used to just drive me up the wall because I wasn't showing them any grace. And so lately the practice hasn't just been in the truck. It's been in here too. And if they come in and they want to show me something, man, it's going to take 30 seconds. Usually the kids they want to hold your attention. It's the most important thing. Again, whatever's going on in their life, good, bad, and different, it's the most important thing in their little life right now. Daddy, let me show you this picture I drew. Wow, that's awesome. Instead of, okay, leave me alone. And I was that guy. Okay, leave me alone. Casey, can you help me get the kids out of here?
Mm,
And I'm not saying I don't do that anymore. I'm not perfect.
right.
Uh, but
But
lately
you're
it's gotten
better.
better and better. Yeah. So it's that take a minute in here as well. Hey, yeah, what do you want to show me? Okay, thank you, and showing them grace. I appreciate it. Okay, go back. I'll be with you in a little bit, and just kind of speaking tenderly to their hearts.
And that makes me think about what you said about kids being they remember and everything. Is if you're constantly being this dad where you are just like, you know what, I don't have time. I'll get with you later. If you constantly are that way, your kids are going to remember that, and they're probably going to be a lot less likely to ever want to engage with you because you're the mean dad. You're like, you don't want to have any time for them.
Yeah, and
Wow,
I
that's
think
good.
I don't want people to misconstrue this thought of grace. You know, disciplining your kids too is showing them love and showing them grace. You know me, I'm going to speak about the gospel, right? And so if you love someone that much, you're gonna share that good news with them. And the same thing goes with your kids. If I we're training adults, let's
Right.
think of that way. We've been given this gift by God for a short period of time, however long He gives us here, and we're training these kids to grow up and be adults. That's really what we're doing. And so I want to effectively do that. Now, how do I do that? Yeah, I need to show them grace. I need to be kind and tender-hearted to them, but at the same time, I have to steer them like, no, this isn't
Right.
okay what you did. But there's a way to do that without screaming at them all day. There's a way to do that without slapping your kid around. I mean, it's horrific, some things that happen to these kids because of anger. Now, that's a hard issue, I think, with parents that they need to focus on as well. So, you know, it's a different story. I don't want to take it down that path, but there is a way to gracefully discipline your children, I believe. And I
Sure.
think each kid's different. And we've learned that each one of our daughters, different discipline methods work. With one kid, a timeout will suffice. One kid, it was Tabasco sauce on the tongue. I mean, you know, it's different with every child. And that again goes back to showing yourself some grace that maybe the way that you were brought up worked for you, but it might not work for your child.
Mm. Oh, right. Yeah, exactly. I've heard that before too. And the whole Tabasco thing, that brings back some memories when I was a kid. It was, except it wasn't Tabasco, it was Dial soap.
Oh yeah, buddy, me too. Hey, one thing I was thinking about as we were talking is you asked me a question. This is years ago, before you were a dad. It was something to the effect of, you know, you were asking my opinion. Did I believe whether you could be your whole self and your same self at work that you are at home? You recall that by any chance?
I do.
So
Yeah.
I think me becoming a better father has made me a better manager, has made me a better pastor. I mean, I think it's made me an all around better, just more understanding and patient individual, and vice versa. You know, the way that I've learned to organize things at work that helps me organize our home schedule. And so I think they have mutual benefits,
Right.
but I still think that yeah, absolutely, you can be your full self. Now, you might be a little more assertive at work than you would be with a small child, but I
Sure.
think the grace is still extended there with your employees and with your colleagues. So this is kind of getting into a bigger picture here, not just being a dad. You know, if you
Hmm.
learn those traits and those habits, that's going to eventually pour over into your workplace, into your marriage. um, I'm not saying that this is going to make you a perfect individual, but practicing those habits with this child that you can mold,
Right.
is going to eventually pour over into other aspects of your life.
Yeah, absolutely. That's one of the the exciting parts that I'm looking forward to most. Even now with Evan being only 9 months old, he's starting to copy me. He's starting to like, two different signs, and I see him watching me, and it's such an encouragement to think that, my behavior, my example, what is on my billboard, he is paying attention to, and he is going to
Yeah.
watch it, look at it, and follow me eventually. And so that's it. That's one of the things I've been thinking about here lately is just like, do you do you know what's on your billboard? Do you know the message that you want to share and send? And do you know how you want to develop these young girls into young women or young boys into young men? It's how you are molding them. But then how are you, developing yourself? How are you leading yourself? Because I think that's at the heart of the issue is, yes, understanding grace and being patient with yourself and being patient with your kids, because like you said, that's going to bleed over into other areas of your life. And kids are watching those examples.
Yeah.
And I think, but the hardest part is being aware of that. Sometimes I think as men, we don't really realize that, that Evan is just like listening to everything you say. And then one day he says something that he heard, or yeah, it's such an inspiration, I think, as a new dad, is to be thinking about how you are molding this young little baby right now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and John, I want to commend you too. I mean, the humility that you have in doing stuff like this and reaching out to other dads. I mean, it's not easy for guys to do that. I mean, we're very
Right.
prideful at times. We think we got it all together. I got this. Don't worry about me. So humility kind of ties in all this as well. Is, hey,
Sure.
look, this guy has gone before me. It's kind of that Caleb and Joshua. This guy, he's gone before me. I'm going to seek this mentor out, and what can I do better? What can I improve upon? You're not going to agree with everything. I mean, there's obviously generational differences there, but
Sure.
I think what you're doing is you're absolutely taking the right steps.
Oh, I appreciate that. It's one of the things that I've learned a long time ago is that, when I was 20, I was like thinking, who is the 30-year-old John? I'm going to be 40 next month. And now I'm thinking, what's the 50 year? I can't even imagine that. But what does that look like? You
You're
know,
already an old
and
man at heart, John. Let's be
yeah,
honest.
so I always seek out advice from my dad, advice from other men, or I've always been very intentional about building up my tribe and having access to people like that, because I know that there are other men who have gone before me, and they may have walked this challenge or been through this obstacle, and where I'm stuck, and I'm like, what, how did you get through this? Or what should I be reading, or what should I be asking myself? And so I think that's the whole value of having a mentor, but then also having access to other men who have gone before you. And thankfully, it's a gift I believe I have, but I'm not afraid to be able to talk about those things, because I'm a very young father, but I've been in leadership. I've been in the military for 22 years. I've been in this capacity of building up leaders. And so that I approach fatherhood from this role of being a leader. And it's just, I have the desire to be able to have these conversations. I know how to have them. And so what I'm learning through all of this is that there are a lot of dads out there who want to have this conversation. So that's the inspiring and motivation behind all of this. So I appreciate
Good.
that.
Yeah, and this is an easily accessible forum to do that.
It
It's a
is.
little uncomfortable to do it in person sometimes. And hey, man, can I pick your brain about being a dad? I mean, that might be a little uncomfortable. I get that.
And
So
record
I
it.
think yeah, and then can we record it? So if you don't already have an existing relationship, that's uncomfortable. So having these videos recorded for these guys, I think is great.
Sure, sure. Well, I certainly appreciate your time. I know you're a busy dad, and I certainly appreciate you carving out some time to share with me and share with this community. Would you like to share anything else as far as uh, you know anything, whether it's another dad joke or
No,
encouragement?
I don't have it. You asked me before the call what my favorite one was, and I said that's like asking me who my favorite kid is, man. You don't have one favorite dad joke. That's really hard.
That's
No, I
good.
think I don't want to throw out too many things at guys. I think focus on grace, and
Mhm.
again, that's for your kids, for yourself, for your wife. But the final thing I would say to those guys who are married, who are raising these children with that woman in their life, you need to treat that woman in a way that teaches your kids respect.
Mhm.
As a father of three girls, I want the young man that they eventually court and marry uh, to treat them the way I treat Casey. And so that puts the onus on me to treat her with grace and respect. And so if I'm teaching them these things, I need to learn that myself. So it's a gut check sometimes, right?
Oh yeah.
So that's kind of my grace is probably the key word I want people to think about.
It's no coincidence that yesterday on my Mr. Dad series, I did a whole video on grace and giving
Oh,
yourself
cool.
grace. And so if you haven't been able to watch that yet, I did it on December 20th. So go back and check it out. But it's about a 12, 14-minute video on giving yourself grace. And so yeah, no
It was
coincidence
a
there.
divine appointment, man. Come
It
on.
was, it was. And so,
Hey,
yeah,
can I read a scripture before we go?
sure, absolutely.
So Proverbs 22:6 says, train up a child in the way he should go, and when he is old, he will not depart from it. So that's a really good guiding scripture for dads, moms, everybody. So
Sure.
train up the child in the way he should go, and when he is old, he will not depart from it. That's a big
So
one.
if you're looking for a good scripture to think about, Proverbs 22:6. And for those of you who may not be familiar with the Bible, the Proverbs in the book of the Bible is known as the book of wisdom,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So if you're looking for wisdom, it's a great place to start is Proverbs. So, well, again, Scott, thank you so much for taking out your time. Until tomorrow, be awesome, be well, and have a great Christmas. Actually, no, this is going to be posted after Christmas.
Hope you
So
had a great Christmas.
hope you had a great Christmas. But be awesome, be well, and take care, everybody. Thanks.